Thank you, Gina, for the kind words and the introduction, we can dance, at least one dance tonight. So I'd also like to thank Leah Cannon and the Hope Foundation for the outstanding work they do to support young scientists in training. As you heard, Gina is now an assistant professor at the Moffitt Cancer Center. She's an outstanding example of successful scientists whose career was dramatically facilitated by support by the Hope Foundation. I also want to thank the Hope Funds for Cancer Research for honoring my career in cancer research. As I agree with Joan, it's, we do this not for the awards, not for the money. We do it partly for the intellectual stimulation, but really to have an impact in patients' lives. And so it's a real pleasure to receive these awards that we aren't really expecting. So I took a very unlikely course in my career. As a high school student, I actually hated biology. I was forced to take 10th grade biology and swore I would never take another biology course the rest of my life. And actually, I never did. So had you told me that I was going to become a cancer center director, I would have laughed you out of the room. I loved chemistry, and chemistry was simple because you just had to learn a few rules and then apply those, and everything else worked out. With biology, you had to memorize an immense amount of information, which to me sounded like a lot of work. I went on to Cornell in biophysical chemistry and got my PhD there, but as I was a graduate student, I realized that the most interesting questions in chemistry were really questions of biology, because biology is just chemistry in action. And so I got sucked into going to Harvard as a postdoc to work on more biological questions. I decided to work on a cell that was very simple, the red cell. It doesn't have any DNA, essentially no RNA. It's just a bag of enzymes. And I figured as a chemist, you could kind of figure that out. A bag of enzymes is a lot simpler. Even that turned out to be complicated. But once I started my own lab, I ventured into more complicated things and even started working on cancer cells. But the questions I was interested in is a very simple question. How do you get a molecule into or out of a cell? For a cell to grow, it has to take up glucose. It has to balance its sodium-potassium levels. And I was trying to understand the actual mechanism by which that worked. And in the process, realized that if you add growth factors to cells or insulin, it would change the uptake of the nutrients. In order for a cell to grow, it's got to turn on the uptake of glucose, for example. And in the process of trying to understand how that worked, I had a sort of wild idea that maybe it was phosphorylation of the lipids in the cell membrane that was somehow affecting how these transporters were turned on and turned off. And that led to the discovery of an enzyme that phosphorylated lipids that Gina mentioned, this enzyme PI3 kinase, or we also call it PI3K. This enzyme, we now know, not only controls how growth factors take up nutrients like glucose, but it also controls almost every step of cell growth, how a cell grows. And in fact, mutations, activating mutations that make this enzyme get turned on or inactivating mutations on enzymes that reverse what this does, are the most frequent things that happen in cancer. And as a consequence, drugs targeting PI3 kinase have gone into clinical trials. There are currently more than 20 different drugs from numerous companies that target this enzyme. And the first such drug was approved just 2 years ago. So it's extremely exciting to me that these very fundamental questions of chemistry should lead to actual new drugs that are having effects on patients. In the course of this has also told us a lot about how insulin works and how you can connect insulin diabetes to cancer. And of course, that's one of my obsessions, which you don't want me to talk about because I'd be on the stage for too long. So with that, I just want to thank, again, the Hope Foundation, but also in particular, my wife, Vicki, who's been with me through all of this and of course leads her own life, which is, believe it or not, more busy than mine. And my daughters, Mariko and Alexandra, Mariko, who is here today and is the person who can really dance in the room. So, okay, and thank you very much.